Welcome to Morning Brew on Politics Social. It is Sunday the 19th of October 2025. Welcome. I'm Graham Hughes, if you didn't know. Hello. Cheeky Scouser here. How you doing? Big shout out to all in the chat, including Lost Missionary, Martin Harrow, Saz, Viper Scott, Alistair, Han making YouTube, and we've also got, who else is in there? We have Sid in there as well. We've got Elle in there. We've got Paula Thomas and others. If you'd like to join our beautiful friends in the beautiful chat, all you need to do, as always, just, don't be a lurker. Be a subscriber. And then you can write stuff in the chat. But not if you're listening to this while you're driving. Eyes on the road. Right. So today we're going to be talking about the No Kings protests yesterday and just about protests in general. And, I might be a little bit cynical because I took part, I played a prominent role in a lot of the anti-Brexit protests, and they achieved diddly squat. They took a nice burgundy passport and turned it into this piece of shit and stopped me living and working anywhere I wanted in my own continent. Didn't stop Nigel Farage, though. Didn't stop Nigel Farage or Boris Johnson or Aaron Gobshite or Andy Wigmore, Aaron Banks, that was it. Aaron Wanks, Richard Tite, Richard Lice, Jacob Greased Hog, all the prominent Brexiteers, every single one of them's a millionaire. So yeah, I am a little bit cynical, but maybe together we can make me a little less cynical, We could look on the bright side of all this. And you know what we'll do? We'll have a look at some of the funny placards. We'll have a look at some of the stuff that went down, because I think that'd be quite informative and cool. So we'll do that. But the question is, will this have any tangible effect on the Tangerine Tyrant, who seems tantalizingly close to full-on tyranny at the moment? And Trump's response to it was to put up an AI video of him dressed as a king in a plane or a helicopter or something and dropping shit on the protesters. Yeah. Trump is still in the White House. Federal troops are still being deployed. Civil liberties are still being rolled out. But let's rolled out. Sorry. Freudian clit there. I mean, tit. I mean, slip. So anyway, we want to talk about, where's the strategy? But let's talk first of all what happened. It was the biggest protest day possibly in US history. Peaceful, family-friendly resistance, strong turnouts even in small towns. Yellow was a protest colour. There were inflatable frogs everywhere. The message, quite clearly, no kings. But scale alone doesn't equal power, and governments only care about pressure that costs them something. What does this cost them? America's going to have no more free and fair elections if Trump has his way. This is the issue that we have right now. So let's have a look. Let's have a look at the. We'll take you over to the actual pictures from the protests. Here we go on the Guardian website. No Kings protests across the US in pictures. We've got the picture there, which is on the thumbnail. This is a person dressed as the statue of Libertaire. And then we have a hollow Trump. There you go, an effigy of Trump with a crown on his head. See, the problem is, right? Trump supporters will see that and go, "Yeah, that's great." They don't look at that and go, "Oh, that's really ugly and horrible," and he's wearing a crown. He shouldn't be. They look at that and they're like, "Yeah, cool." That could be a Trump supporter holding that. That's the problem. Woman with a bag on her head saying no kings since 1776, which is, you have Billie Jean King. Is it Billie Jean? Was it Billie Joe King? What was the name of the tennis player? Billie Jean King. Yes, it's Jean King. I'm getting mixed up. Remember Martin Luther? Rather Elvis. He was a king. But anyway, Liberty, not tyranny, there in Times Square in New York City. We've got Senators Cory Booker there and Adam Schiff attending a No Kings protest in Washington, D.C. We've also got this really fetching picture of Trump as Marie Antoinette. No health care for you peasants, but a ballroom for the Queen. Which I see as a pretty good. I mean, that as a message to get through to some of the, not the hardcore Trump fans, but the sort of few of them that aren't massively in the cult. But the problem is, right? Can I be really clear here? I hate to say this, but the cult is fucking huge. Like the cult of America, like Trump, is massive. You're talking at least 77 million people who are, on their knees in front of Trump. I just say that. Okay, they worship him like the shiny golden orange idol that he wants to be. No king since 1776. This is in strongly Trump supporting county in North Georgia. So people turning out there. This is thousands of protesters filling Times Square in New York City. Trump is the worst president since, Trump, says a protester there. Not wrong. Real clowns would run things better, as someone dressed as a clown. Then we have someone with a flag and resist written on top of their cap. We've got a picture of diaper Donny in his diaper, holding on to all his money. And then we've got another inflatable orange turd there running along in Washington, D.C. We've got no kings, no fascists in America. We've got a Nazi, what's it called, a Hitler's tash on Trump there. Sorry for being weird. This is my first dictatorship, says Squidward, which is quite fun. And then we've got Washington, D.C. We've got, which Muppet's that? Which Muppet's that? It's not Cookie. Is that Cookie Monster? Is that Cookie Monster? I don't know. I think it's Cookie Monster. And with them all slapping Israel for some reason. We've got demonstrators near Washington, D.C. In Washington, D.C., not near. I'm not a terrorist. I'm a peaceful protester, says an old lady holding a sign. Stop the Third Reich. I like that. No kings. Another person dressed up as the Statue of Liberty. So there you go. There's your pictures. There's your pictures, bitches. Hope you enjoyed them. So yeah, does it do any good? Does it do any good? Like, you see, the thing is, protest movements, and this is what we learned from the Brexit movement. It needs outputs, not just outbursts, right? Put it that way. So tangible wins look like legal challenges and injunctions, funding pressure and economic impact, mass union involvement, and strikes. So important. So important. You got to understand, right? The British Empire was in India in one form or another from 1600 under the reign of Queen Elizabeth I. That's when the fucking East India Company was first created. 1600, and it wasn't until 1947 that the British finally pulled out of India. Now, I'm not saying they took over the whole of India in the 1600s, because they didn't. We didn't. But eventually we got to a point, where keeping hold of power in India wasn't worth it. Forget about the morals. Does it make any money? From that famous song by Jarvis Cocker, right? If something is costing a company, an industry, something money, a country money, they will tend to sack it off. At some point, at first they go, oh no, it can be a loss leader, that's all right. But at some point, they will start wanting to make money back. And this is why I'm terrified at the moment that YouTube will, I don't give them ideas, but YouTube will at some point, because I uploaded a load of photos to Photobox, which is an app that you can make photo albums on. I did it before my dad got too ill. I made a book of photos so we could flick through them. It was honestly, I did it a bit too late, to be honest with you, but that's just my thing. But yeah, and so I've got 300 pictures on Photobox or whatever it's called, and they keep sending me emails saying, we're going to delete your pictures. We're going to, unless you pay us, we're going to delete your pictures. What I'm worried about, what do we do when YouTube decide that I have to they're not gonna hold the thousands of hours of footage that I have made, 4K footage. This is going out in 4K. Thousands of hours. I've made over 2,000 live shows on this channel, my friends. You can't say I don't put I don't put the effort in, But what if they say to me, "Oh, right, Graham, if you want these to stay on our servers, you're going to have to pay." Yeah, that doesn't quite keep me up at night as much as other things that are going on in the world. But that is a worry in the back of my head. But yeah, generally speaking, when morality doesn't matter. Look, it got to a point that it wasn't morality that ended the slave trade. It was the Industrial Revolution, which happened around the same time that the slave trade was abolished. Funny timing that, right? No. They realized it was more cost effective to pay people buttons, have them live in their own homes or hovels, slums, and have them feed themselves. If you have people living with you in some kind of quarters, obviously slaves were not treated very well. They didn't have beds to sleep in. But, you had to put them up somewhere. You couldn't just leave them out, in freezing cold conditions in the winter. You bring them in, keep them warm, keep them alive. Because each slave cost you a lot of money. Just from a economic perspective, owning slaves became uneconomically viable. It became eventually just what it always really was, just a racist thing. And people were prepared to lose loads of money by being racist. But the Industrial Revolution meant you could get the same amount of output from a human being, the same amount of work, more work even. And you paid them, it cost you even less. Even though you were paying them wages, it cost you less than keeping slaves. Don't tell me that anything that these bastards in charge do is made, for because they have a moral compulsion to do it. There's always an eye on the mineral rights or the oil if they're going to invade a country. There's always an eye on what's the back end on this? There's never a time in human history where they've just gone, oh, well, we'll do this. It'll be the right thing to do. I mean, there might have been. I'm trying to second guess myself here. Maybe the British intervention in Sierra Leone. That's about it. But apart from that, no. It happens so few. The incidents that's happened have been so few and far between. So many times when things have been done around the world, they've been done because it just wasn't worth it anymore. Was it worth the British state continuing on with the troubles in Northern Ireland? No, it wasn't. Northern Ireland was just costing the British taxpayer shitloads of money, having to have security services there, having to clear up after these bombings, having to, added security around the whole of Britain as a result of the IRA and other terrorist groups, organizations, unionist terrorist groups as well. So it was in our economic interest to sort it out. I often talk about the death penalty and how for a lot of countries, the argument isn't necessarily, hey, look, it's wrong for a country to murder its own citizens, which is my argument. That would hit me. That would make you go, oh yeah, we shouldn't do that. No, for them, it costs too much. You put someone on death row in California, it costs £1 million to kill them. £1 million, which you could spend, or $1 million, I guess, which you could spend on keeping them in a cell for the rest of their life. You wouldn't even spend a fraction of that. These mega prisons, where the prisoners cost a few £1,000s a year, if that. And some company is making money out of them. You can't make money out of a dead man. Some private company is making money out of someone who's serving a life sentence. And their shareholders are very happy. So, go back to India and why I bring this up. So Britain was in India for 347 years. 347 years. When Britain first went into India in 1600, India was the richest region in the world. What is now India and Pakistan and Bangladesh was the richest region in the world at that time. And when we left in August 1947, it was one of the poorest. It was one of the poorest regions in the world because we had just extracted all the wealth from it. Don't forget that the diamond, the big fuck off diamond in the middle of the crown that the monarch wears in this country came from India. Was it the Kohinoor diamond or something? I don't know. But we fucked them over. Now, how did the Indian people resist? Did they just protest? Well, they did a bit. But we saw in the Amritsar massacre under the direction of General Dyer in 1919 when hundreds of peaceful protesters were shot dead outside the Golden Temple in Amritsar. we saw then, that Indian people saw that that wasn't necessarily the way to do it. Now, there's two things you need to know about Gandhi, right? And I know that he wasn't a perfect character by any stretch of the imagination, but the two things are, right? He understood passive resistance and he was a lawyer. So while he was doing stuff in the back rooms, making deals and organizing stuff through using Britain's law against Britain in the background, in the foreground, he was causing passive resistance. Indians across the subcontinent were just downing tools. They were saying, no, I'm not going to work. They were causing problems for the British overseers. And it meant that the British kept on having to spend more and more money keeping them in line. And it gets to a point where it's just not cost effective to do that anymore. And Britain pulled out of India, not because of any moral, compulsion, but because it wasn't making any money. We'd looted everything we could, and it just wasn't making any money. It was more hassle than it was worth. And that's what happened across the empire, to be honest with you. Very few places were given independence because they just said, oh, it's all right if we become independent now, Britain. Most of the time, it was because they were not an asset. We were not making any money out of them. And we were just like, look, we've got to let you go. Some places didn't even want to not be British anymore. But we said, look, we're leaving because it's not in our interest to work as a protectorate for you anymore. It always comes down to money. And leverage. And this is where I feel like these mass protests, right? I understand them, and I will defend them because I took part in these kind of protests against Brexit, and it wasn't just the case of we thought we were going to stop Brexit. It was also we didn't want to feel like we were going mad. We wanted to feel like there were other people out there who felt the same way we do, in the same way that you have pride. So it's not necessarily. Well, I mean, obviously it becomes a political thing because the ban on gay marriage, Section 28, and now the new Section 28 against trans people. Obviously, we have issues there that still need addressing. But first and foremost, pride is a celebration. What's it called? Pride of being part of the LGBT QIA community. That is what it is a celebration of, and it allows people to meet people who are similar mindset, a similar sexuality, and go, I'm not alone. It's letting gay people know they're not alone, right? In the same way that letting people who hate Trump know they're not alone, or letting people who are anti-Brexit know they're not alone. So I don't have a problem with the protest per se. But what I do have an issue with, right, is the lack of follow-up. And this is the problem. Like, with Brexit, the anti-Brexit groups were so dysfunctional. They were so, just poorly organised. And I hate to say this because I've got some dear friends who are part of these, organisations. But they weren't great at getting shit done. We were too... I don't know, spread out around the country. There wasn't a united front that we could get behind, except for perhaps the People's Vote, which was run by Roland Rudd, who was the brother, or is the brother, of Amber Rudd, the Conservative MP and Minister. Okay, so, yeah. Miss Paula Thomas, thank you very much. £10 super chat, thank you. That's very kind of you. Graham, as I have tried to explain for you before, there were no slaves in England after the Synod of 1102, also known as the Council of London, adopted resolutions against slavery and clerical marriages. Thanks for that. But there were slaves in the UK. Not many of them, but there were adverts for slaves that you can go back and find in periodicals from the 1700s. It was on the down low, but if it was someone's lordly estate, there wasn't a police force at the time. Who was going to stop you? Would the JP come along with the justice? You were the justice of the peace. You were the law. The lord of the manor was the law. So no, there were not many, but there were slaves in the UK. Going back, but yeah, there still are today. Modern slavery. There's more slaves now than ever before in history. Isn't great, is it? There's slaves in America. Tons of slaves in America. They realized that the cheaper way of, having slaves is you get the state to pay a private company to house the slaves and give them food, so you don't have to pay for that, and then you get them to work in for pennies for your plantation or whatever the fuck it is that you're trying to make. And they do this. It's the penal system in America. It's the prison system. It's just a new form of slavery. That's what it is, quite blatantly. And it's quite interesting that the prison population of America shot up on as slavery went its merry way, unmerry way. The number of people enslaved in a prison system that made them work and fed them shit food and just about kept them alive. And the slave owners don't no longer have to pay for the upkeep of their own slaves. The state pays for it, the taxpayer, the US taxpayer. But yes. Along with strikes, so what Gandhi did, he organised general strikes across India, sit-down protests, non-violent, just using the Britain's own rules against it. America could do the same. Americans could use America's own rules against Trump. And that's the way they'll bring him down at the end of the day. We need to see targeted organising, sustained escalation, not a one-day catharsis. Right now, the No Kings protests really don't have any concrete demands or targets or leverage. But there's a way that they could. And it's as simple as this. You imagine that 1 million people turned up, right, to these protests. Now, a lot of them would have come in from somewhere else, they would have, not necessarily from a different state. Some of them might have going to Washington or New York, but generally speaking, within their own state, they would have gone to a big city or a big town to this protest. There's some money that has been spent on them getting to these protests, right? So, for instance, if I went to a protest down in London, it would cost me up to £160 to get there and back on the train. I'd get the megabus. But, that's £160. Now, just imagine, right? There's 1 million people who turned out to protest against Trump. Let's imagine they don't give £160. They all give $100 each. $100 to a Fight Trump fund, right? Which is well-run, a well-oiled machine of essentially doing the kind of shit that Trump does because he's got untold millions to spend on propaganda. Spending that money wisely on getting on social media, creating bot farms that are anti-Trump, creating things that are, legal. Bot farms are fucking legal. There's no law against bot farms, mate. The right wing use them all the time. Making sure that you bribe the right people to get your mate on the TV. It might not be, a bribe like an illegal bribe to a politician, but you can use that money to wine and dine the chief exec of whatever network you want your people to get on and get them on that fucking network. Get people in positions of influence, and you could use that money to do that. And I think that's one of the biggest downfalls of the anti-Brexit campaign. And you might argue against me on this and think it was something else, but I think it was the way that there were so many people, at least 1 million, there might have been more, who were active, not just like passively against Brexit, but actively against Brexit. And that power, that energy was never effectively grabbed hold of and used. And if people want to do something, if people want to make a difference, giving a couple of quid here and there to a YouTube channel or to the party that they're part of, to pay their party dues each month, it's nothing compared with what we can do if we all come together, crowdfunder with enough of us. So America's got 5 times the population. Imagine if 10 million Americans gave $100. That would be $1 billion to spend on just going against Trump. That could be spent on getting civil cases in every court in the land. Do you know what else you could do? You could be a sneaky little bastard about it. The way in US courts, like they seem to pick, they let Trump or his mates pick the judges. So they There's a group called the Federalist Society, and since the 70s, they've been pushing for people in power to get their own judges in place. Well, you know what? If there is a judge who is a Trumper like Eileen Cannon down in Florida, just make sure that she can't work on anything. Just keep putting in, like, just make the system work against her. Make the system absolutely work against her so she doesn't get to be the judge on cases like the Trump case where he stole documents from the Ministry of Defense over there, the Pentagon, and essentially, showed them to his mates, kept them in the bog, and she was in charge of the trial, and so it went nowhere. It went nowhere. Tie her up with something. Find something on her. Pay for private investigators to go after every single one of Trump's motherfucking friends, right? And bring civil lawsuits against them. Frivolous if necessary. Just tie them up. Make it so they've got to spend their own money to defend themselves. Make it so they've got to turn up in court. So they can't be, I don't know, going to a fucking rally down in bloody Virginia to tell people to vote for Trump. Tie them up. Think of clever ways of fucking the right, which is what the right do all the time. The right do this all the fucking time. They know that statistic, that 80% of the money that goes towards anti-trans groups in America comes from the fossil fuel industry. Both didn't surprise me and blew me away at the same time. Like, they're so obvious about it. They don't give a fuck who knows. They're like, yeah, whatever. We're funding anti-trans hate. We're funding that. Because if people stop hating trans people, they might start hating us for destroying the planet, leaving no future for our children. But yeah, so we need demands, we need targets, we need leverage, and to do that, we need money. It's as simple as that. And this is why the right always win. This is why last year I was saying I think that Trump is going to win, and I was being shouted down by other people. And they were saying, don't say that, Graham. You're talking bollocks. She's got a great ground game. Everyone loves her. She's great at debating. Trump is rubbish. He's old. He's out of kip. He talks bollocks. He's having, he's doing these rallies in places that no one's ever heard of. Yeah, but they were streamed, weren't they? But my thing that I said at the time, you go back and watch the videos, is, yeah, but the billionaires want him to win. The billionaires want him to win. All the billionaires want him to win. Money. That's what it comes down to. And if you've got 1 million people who are prepared to get off their asses, make a costume, make a sign, go out on the streets, you have potential of a fuckload of money. It won't be coming from an oil cartel, but it will be coming from the people, which should possibly be a better thing. And you can then spend that money. Be really fucking honest about it. You don't have to lie. You can say, we're gonna fuck up these bloody Republican motherfuckers. This is how we're going to do it, and just do it. They can't stop you. They can't stop you bringing civil cases. If you've got the money to bring a civil case, you can bring a civil case, mate. And it can fuck someone's life. It's what the rich do all the time. Let's do it back to them. See how they fucking like it. It's interesting, isn't it, that a lot of the people on the left, progressives, let's say, a lot of progressives that also like Hollywood script writers, you think they'd be able to write some scripts, like not for a movie, but for reality, of like clever ways to screw over the ruling class. Non-violent protest, but not just going out and walking down the street, in other ways, And also, there's the money side of it, but also there's the amount of power that Americans hold by withdrawing their labor. America is the richest country in the world because they don't give anyone any maternity leave. You got to go into work the day after a baby smashed its way out of you. You've got to go back to work the day after fucking Christmas Day. You got to go back into work. You don't get holidays in America. They don't have holiday pays. A holiday is like you have like one day off. You have like July the 4th or whatever that day is. They have that day off, and they have like Thanksgiving off. But apart from that, that's your holidays. You don't get like fucking 4 weeks a year to spend how you want. None of that. In the chat, Diz is saying food prices take the piss. They do. Imagine if the 30-year-old and under white male joined me. says Dax. Viper says, Martin, yup, I know friends' foods have shot up for a week now at 150 quid. Got this food yesterday, went up £30 for a few weeks ago. Yeah, Viper Scott, same for me. I went to Lidl this week and my bill came to £100, just over £100 for the first time ever. I've been shopping at that Lidl for like 5-6 years, and my bill has never come to over 100, even when I've bought alcohol. And on this shop, I didn't buy any alcohol. Food prices have shot up because of Brexit, because we let the lunatic, posh, inbred, toff, nepo baby, billionaire bastards tell us what to do, and we went, yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir. How may I lick your staff, sir? How may I chortle your balls? Tell me, how may I tug my forelock and doff my cap in your presence? My deference is eternal and unending. Fucking deference. Fucking ridiculous thing. One Angry Pagan, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. The Enclave fallout may be a real possibility. The Enclave from Fallout. The Enclave from Fallout. I don't understand. Sorry. But thanks for the super chat. He paid 12 million quid of his own money to a girl he has never met. It wasn't his own money. It wasn't his own money, noob. It was our money. It was taxpayers' money. They don't fucking work. Imagine, just for a moment, that a asylum seeker had come to the United Kingdom and abused women, abused girls. And not only was that asylum seeker not, this is the important thing, not thrown in jail for their crimes that they had committed on British soil, the British taxpayer stumped up £12 million to give one of his victims. Anyway, yeah. So I think also there's something I want to talk about as well, which is the 3.5% rule. This is the idea that research shows that 3.5% of a population protests sustained and non-violently, regimes can fall, right? Which is true, but the word is sustained, okay? And as we found with the anti-Brexit protests, we had about 2 a year, right? We did nothing between those times. Like, nothing fucking happened. I mean, someone might be able to tell me in the chat that something was going on behind the scenes, but I didn't fucking see it, right? So we had a big march in March, and we had another one in September. Each year. Did fuck all, because it wasn't sustained. If we had brought London to a standstill every day for a month, then the government would have had to sit up and pay attention to us. If we had convinced people to do a general strike, you know, all the farmers fucking down tools, well, they're having to now because of Brexit. How's the fishing industry in Grimsby doing? Hey, how's that doing after Brexit, eh? But we just couldn't get enough people on side, and we didn't have the funding. We didn't have the money, and we didn't have the organisation. We didn't have the leadership. We had a bunch of, struggle to use the word gifted. We had a bunch of amateurs running the place, running the running this stuff. And I'll be pulled into these meetings. And I'm sorry if you were there in these meetings. And I'm sorry this sounds like a diss. It kind of is. I went into meetings where all they'll do for an hour or maybe an hour and a half of my time would sit there and go on about how bad things will be when we leave the European Union. And I'm like, yeah, I know this. I've heard the song before. It's okay. You don't. It's like Sex on Fire by Kings of Leon. It's all right. I've heard it. It's all right, mate. No, stop. Sorry. I know you're a pub band, and I know it's what you do, but it's all right. I've heard this one. It's all right. Just play something else. Play Gold by Spandau Ballet. Boom. There you go. That's a fucking banger, mate. Play that instead. Next time you think, should we play Sex on Fire by Kings of Leon? Go, no. Let's pick something good instead. Anyway, that people might not have heard for a while. Miss Paula Thomas, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. The royal family is the greatest benefit scam. Yes, absolutely yes. Family on benefits. Family of asylum seekers on benefits. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, Prince Philip. Do you remember him? He was an asylum seeker. So that makes Prince Andrew the child of an asylum seeker. The child of an asylum seeker who wasn't born here. Well, that's quite interesting, isn't it? Now you put it that way. The son of an asylum seeker was given £12 million of taxpayers' money to pay off one of his victims of his crimes. What was his crime? Paedophilia. That is, yeah, there you go. There's a revelation for you. I love doing these. Yeah, he was born in Corfu. Born in Corfu. Born in a different country, and not a faraway land. Prince Philip came here, shacked up with the Queen, lived off benefits for the rest of his life. And now one of his spawn has committed horrific crimes. And not only is he not in jail, we paid 12 million to that motherfucker. Well, you know, I'm not talking about Virginia Giuffre here. I'm talking about we paid that money. That didn't come from the Queen. It came from us. We paid the fucking Queen. Okay? That's all our money. That's the state's money. And she chose to use 12 million of it, not to rebuild schools or hospitals or get down waiting lists or fill the potholes. She chose to spend 12 million of our money on a victim that apparently, according to Prince Andrew, he'd never met. Never met her, he said. Then photo emerges of him with the woman that he abused. 3 times, 3 separate occasions. Once in London, once in New York, and once on Paedophile Island. And she wasn't the only one. Not the only one. SG says, have you seen the AI video that Trump posted of himself flying up in a fighter jet and literally bombing the protesters with shit? Yeah. I mentioned that at the start of the show. Well, Angry Pagan, the enclave was the US president, corporate leaders, etc., escaping to an offshore oil rig to survive the nuclear apocalypse, leaving all the little folk to suffer. Fallout franchise. Oh, okay. All right. So the game, the video game. Cool. I like the TV show of Fallout. I thought that was a lot of fun. Sadly, Andrew will never see the inside of a prison cell because his victim was over the age of UK consent and is no longer with us. Therefore, no complainant. Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, she was over the age of consent, but if she said that the sex wasn't consensual, it's still rape. And yeah, she said the sex wasn't consensual. So, just to go back to what I was saying about the anti-Brexit movement. I marched, I organised, I stood shoulder to shoulder with hundreds of thousands of people in London, in Leeds, in Manchester, in Newcastle, in Liverpool, in Brighton. I went to protests all over the country, and I was in it. I was in the thick of it, and the lack of sustained action was the problem. And so I'm not dissing the marches. I think they went really, really well, but it was the lack of, what do you do the next day? And that's the problem that I think they're going to face in America with the No Kings protests. If they're only going to do this once every few months, it's not going to have any effect whatsoever. It's going to be a jolly day out for people. It's going to be the 4th of July parade, Macy's parade down Broadway or whatever. Elizabeth Johnson, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Do you think the left having a boogeyman, the billionaires wealthy, will be as effective as the right immigrant boogeyman? No, because no one wants to be an asylum seeker. Everyone wants to be a billionaire. Everybody wants to rule the world. Unfortunately, this is why I say don't use rich and poor. If you can, get away with it. Don't say rich and poor, because no one thinks of themselves as poor. Everyone thinks of themselves as temporarily embarrassed millionaires. and everyone who's rich doesn't think they're rich, or people who look at the rich to go, oh, I want to be that one day, and like Fry from Futurama, one day I'll be rich, and I don't want you taking my money. It's as simple as that. So yeah, I don't think it's very helpful, really, to use the terms rich and poor. I do think it's helpful to talk about the hypocrisy of the billionaire class. I do think it is worth using them as a bête noire, as a boogeyman. But at the same time, yeah, Elizabeth, I don't think it is as sort of, I don't think it causes the visceral hatred that you get when people start going off on one about immigrants, because immigrants, obviously, usually a different color, usually a different religion, different language. They look different. You can spot an immigrant usually in a way that you can't necessarily spot someone who's different in some other way. And if you're a bigoted motherfucker, like, I don't know, J.K. Rowling or Graham Linehan or someone, you can make a lot of headway out of demonizing a small segment of society. And look, I had this sort of realization yesterday. I don't know whether I said it here, but I definitely put it on Facebook. We often talk about driving on this channel because, I kind of hate cars. I kind of wish cars didn't exist. I hate cars in the same way that I hate drugs. I understand that people love their drugs and, will die for their drugs, literally. And I understand that people love their cars and will die for their cars, literally. And they don't care who if other people have to die for them to get their drugs, especially if it's something like cocaine, which comes from South America, and thousands of people are killed every year because of the trade, or whether it's heroin that comes from Afghanistan, where the Taliban are in charge and they just murder people left, right, and center because we're looking at them funny. The trail of death and destruction, the trail of blood. It's from Bolivia to up some socialites' fucking nostrils in London in a club in Soho is just blood. It's a trail of blood. It is a trail of fucking untrammeled blood. But drugs exist. And cars exist. And unfortunately, while we don't have better mental health services, people will turn to drugs. While we don't have better public transport, people will turn to cars. I have so many friends in London who don't own a car. They don't need to because the public transport system is fucking amazing. They do not need a car. Around here, Durham, you need a fucking car. Today, if I wanted to go to town, I'd have to fucking walk because there's no fucking bus because it's a fucking Sunday. If I didn't have a car. So I fucking hate them, right? I fucking hate the fact that we build our lives, we build our communities, our villages, our cities, our little seaside towns, the things in which we live, our built environment, we built them around the needs of the fucking car and this absolutely mental idea that the cars cannot stop. No. If it's an option between making the pedestrians stop or walk an extra half mile and climb over a fucking bridge and then down the other side, they will make the pedestrians go out their way. If it's a question of putting in a cycle lane to keep the cyclists safe, demarked cycle lane, if it in any way disrupts the cars and, narrows the lanes so only maybe one lane of cars can get through rather than two lanes. No, 9! The cars must not stop! And you're like, what? What is the problem? Why can't cars stop? I say this so many times. People are sitting down in a car, right? People are sitting down. They are comfortable. They're listening to the radio, tapping their feet. They've got air conditioning. They've got a heater. They're all right. Person in the snow, in a wheelchair, the side of a fucking dual carriageway, who's having to go an extra half mile up the road to get to a fucking bridge that's got steps going up. Yeah, they're fucked. But heaven forfend, we put in a crossing on the level, that they press a button on and they can cross the fucking road. Oh no, we can't do that. Why not? Because the cars must not stop. And this is said to someone who lives near the A1M. Most ridiculous road imaginable. Anyway, I was thinking about this, right? I was thinking about cars, right? And about what makes a good driver. And unfortunately, for an entire generation of fucking dickheads, right? I'm sorry to call you a dickhead if you're one of these people, but stop it, right? If you do this, please stop it, right? I think that the mark of a good driver is not razzing round at the maximum possible speed that you can possibly go around that corner, the maximum speed you can get to that traffic light before slamming on the brakes and throwing everyone in the back forward. I don't think that the mark of a good driver is someone who puts their foot down, from a standing start and everyone, legs in the air, right? Especially if you're on a bus or a coach going through fucking Panama, right? At night. I don't think that is a mark of a good driver. Like, oh my God, I took this corner at a really dangerous speed and we survived. I'm a good driver. Fucking go me, right? Fuck off. I'm sorry, I'm not having that, right? Mark of a good driver. The comfort of the passengers. That's it. That is it. If you're driving on your own, whatever, have fun, right? If you've got passengers in your car and they are clinging to the fucking door handle, for dear life, and they're getting flung around left and right every time you go around a fucking corner, getting flung forward every time you stop at a fucking traffic light, and then you razz up to 100 miles an hour and then slam on the brakes again when you get to the next set of traffic lights 500 meters down the road. I'm sorry, you're not a good driver. You're a shit driver. I don't care if you've never crashed. I don't care if you've never actually hit anything. You're a shit driver because you don't put your passengers at ease. And that goes for car drivers. It goes especially for bus drivers, especially for coach drivers. Anyone who drives like that with passengers on board can fuck off, especially when they've got elderly passengers on board, which happens a lot with buses. Right. So let's extrapolate this idea out a little bit. So in my world, in my view, which you may or may not disagree. You may disagree with this, whatever, right? Your mileage may vary. In my world, right? People will be lauded for the comfort of the passengers. So a bus driver who makes it so all the passengers don't get thrown around when they slam on the brakes at the traffic lights. They get a bonus. They get extra money. There you go, bus driver. Have extra money for being a good driver. Passenger satisfaction survey. There should be a little panel at the side, right? When you're waiting to get off the bus, and it says, "Did your bus driver throw you around like a fucking rag doll?" Not in a good way. Yes, no, maybe, don't know, don't care. Right, press your button. Right. And if people are pressing yes, threw me around, that fucking driver gets sacked. Fuck off. Go do something else. Become a racing driver. Go on. Live out your fucking, Ayrton Senna fantasies on a fucking racetrack. Possibly not the one in Imola, but whatever. So let's extrapolate this out, right? Comfort of the passengers. Okay? You don't want your passengers feeling scared. You don't want your passengers feeling fearful of their lives. If they are, you are failing as a driver. So here's my thing, right? Extrapolation. Governments should make people feel safe. Should make their own citizens, law-abiding citizens who've done nothing wrong, should make them feel safe. And once you have a government that is making disabled people feel unsafe, that's making trans people feel unsafe, that's making immigrants from other countries feel unsafe, then you fail as a government. That is your number one priority. Not the fucking economy, not even the NHS, not even the school system, the roads, whatever. Comfort, safety of people in this country. If people are scared to walk outside, you have failed. And when I say it's not about, the NHS or police or whatever, but it kind of is. Because you need to know people aren't scared of dying from a easily preventable disease, That's what the NHS is there for. You need to know people aren't terrified to go out on the streets because they think they're going to get mugged or worse. And that's where the police step in. But when the police are worse than the criminals that they're locking up, when the police are laughing, telling jokes about the murders of kids, when the police are raping women, when the police are murdering women and laughing about it in their little WhatsApp groups, I'm sorry, but that whole thing falls apart. Are the police making us feel safe? No. Do you feel safe as a trans woman? No, not right now. Thanks a lot, Labour. That's why they're failing. And so any government you see around the world doesn't go out of its way to make marginalised groups, and even the majority when it comes to women, feel safe. feel like they're not going to die, then you are a failure as a government. And that's why I think this Labour government right now is fucking failing left, right, and centre. I don't give a shit about these things that they're bringing in and they're going to do this, they're going to do that. I think it's going to be too little too late. They're going to get their asses fucking handed to them by refuck if we don't do something about it. And then the situation will be even worse because in America, the deal is with Trump is that he doesn't give a flying fuck through a rolling donut about anyone who's not a wealthy, white, rich fucking Nepo baby. They're the only people he will defend. Everyone else can go to hell. And there are people living in fear in America right now, scared to go out, scared to leave their homes because of what that fucking cunt has done. And you are seeing the same thing happening over here. I'm afraid to say, we can be proud of the fact that we no longer have a Tory government. But when there are my fellow citizens living in this country who are scared to leave the motherfucking house, then that is the biggest failure of government I can possibly imagine. The government is there to make us feel safe. Do you feel safe? No, the government is failing. End of. Make people feel safe. For fuck's sake, stop going after minorities. Like, why do people, does going after minorities make people feel safer? No, it doesn't. I mean, the fact that these twats who went out to riot in Southport after those girls were murdered, two-fifths of them had criminal records for sexual violence and domestic violence. Or domestic violence. Fucking, yeah, yes. Protect our girls, protect our women. Yeah, mate. Yeah. Is that the future you want? You want a world in which fucking Tommy 10 names and his tattooed fucking tanked up twats go out on the city streets to protect women? Hordes of skinheads with fucking tattoos, with their fucking, XL bully dogs walking down the street. Go, we're protecting the women. We're protected. Look at us. We're going to the pub, getting really fucking drunk, getting really late, just pissing on the side of the road. Look at us protecting the women. Yeah, women, come out of your houses now. You shouldn't feel afraid. We're here to protect you. We need protection against them. Anyway, let's jump into the chat to see how my mileage is going. What made it easier for me to pass my driving test was when I was told I had to drive like a chauffeur to lull the examiner to sleep. Yes! Blue Badger. Right. So, I know someone, dropping no names, who regularly would piss me the fuck off by drinking up to the limit before getting behind the wheel of a car, right? Now, I am, as some of you know from watching my shows, a bit of a Boy Scout, right? I don't do drugs, never done drugs, never smoked cigarettes, don't have any tattoos, don't have any piercings, never been, charged with a crime. I've never given a library book back late. I've had one speeding fine in my entire life, and that was for doing 49 on the M25 at 3 a.m. when I was the only car. I was van. I was driving an unfamiliar van in an absolute fucking rainstorm. But yeah, so I'm pretty much a Boy Scout. So I don't drink. I don't drink at all if I'm going to be driving. If I know I'm going to be driving, I'll drink the zero alcohol beer. It tastes the same to me. My body doesn't know. My brain doesn't know. It just tastes the same. So had some 0% Estrella. It's quite nice. I have one of them, and then I know that I'm under, not just under the limit, but like I don't have any alcohol in me. Thank you. Good. I don't want any alcohol in me when I'm driving because I know what I'm like. I know that if I hit someone, and I know some people aren't like this. I know some people would hit someone and have hit people and destroyed their lives and not given a fuck. Never tried to contact that person they hit or, say sorry or anything, but I'm not one of those. I am not one of those. I know that if I drank over the limit or even up to the limit and I hit someone or, something happened and their injury or even death was on my hands, I couldn't live with myself. I don't care who it was. I know what I'm like, right? And so therefore, I don't drink at all. So this person that I know, he drinks up to the limit and will sort of be like proud of it. I think he got one of those little, those things that you get from the all-night garage that I used to sort of self-breathalyze just to make sure that he was just under the limit. And that'd be bad enough for going on the road at the best of times. But he would often go out with his kid in the car. Like, I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? What is wrong with you? And I'd make the chauffeur thing. I said, imagine if you were paid as a military chauffeur for Prince Harry. This was back before, he accidentally married someone that looked wrong for some reason. So like, Prince Harry, would you have a pint before getting behind the wheel? No. Wow. Okay. Good to know that Prince Harry's safety and welfare and comfort trumps that of your own fucking child. But there you go, there's people out there. If you're one of them, stop it. Just stop it. Don't get mad at me for pointing this out, that it's fucking wrong. Just fucking stop it. The phrase "are women" is key. It's possessive. Yeah, that's very true, Fat Spicer. That is very true. Thank you very much for the super chat, my friend. You're right. Oh, women. Yeah, oh, women. It's really quite grim. Yeah, we're gonna save our girls, are you? Yeah, by terrifying them so they don't leave the house. That'll save them. So I'm going to jump in. When I used to drive, I treated every other road user as an idiot, says Chris C. Chris, I couldn't agree more, my friend. I do exactly the same thing. I just don't trust them. If someone puts their indicator on, I don't trust them. If someone flashes me out, flashes me in, okay, I'll move, but I'll go fucking slowly because I don't trust them. I don't trust anyone on the road. That is my number one rule. Don't trust anyone. Drunk drivers are selfish. The limit needs to be 0, says Chris C. I couldn't agree more, mate. It is 0 in Scotland. It's also 0 in Poland. So countries, Poland famous for vodka, obviously, and Scotland famous for Scotch whiskey. Both countries, no. You can't go to a distillery and have a taster if you are driving. You can't do it. They tell you not to. And I think the distillery get in trouble if they actually give a little taster to someone who's going to be driving. They actually ask. I've been to a few distillery tours in Scotland, which is a lot of fun. Me and Kat used to alternate, so one of us was driving and one of us wasn't, depending on what day it was. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Chris. I know people's lives who were torn apart by drunk drivers, and a formative experience when I was a child. We were going to Scouts, funnily enough. I did say I was a Boy Scout, on Meadow Lane in West Derby, and we were turning right. And as we turned, a proper black Hackney cab smashed into the side of us. This is in the 80s. This is before, you had to wear safety belts in the back and all that kind of shit. I mean, had it been faster, I might not be here. Driver absolutely fucking sozzled. Continued on down the road like nothing had happened, then crashed into a fucking wall. Turned out it wasn't his taxi. His mate had lent him the taxi to get home from the pub. He's absolutely steaming. Absolutely steaming. There's another case that involved someone that, I know and love, who was really brutally injured. A car that he was standing between two cars, and a drunk driver crashed into the back of the stationary vehicle. And he got squished between the two cars. And that drunk driver, I was going off on one the other day about drunk drivers getting a fucking slap on the wrist. He got a slap on the fucking wrist. From my life experience, I'm like, why do people have to do this? Why do people have to do this? Especially in the UK. I mean, there's just no excuse. When I was in Australia many moons ago, 2002, we kind of got a little bit hit by a drunk driver. And we were 100 fucking miles away from the nearest fucking habitation. We were up in the Northern Territory, near a place called Hughes. I don't know if we were crossed over into Queensland by then, but obviously it was in the middle of butt fuck nowhere. And the car was drunk driver. It was a pickup truck, a guy and two women, and he was wearing a safety belt. One of the women was wearing a safety belt. The other one wasn't. And they tried to overtake us on the left, which isn't a good idea in a country where you drive on the left. And they ended up careering off the road into a ditch and then rolling over about 9 times before coming to a halt. The woman who was not wearing a safety belt was in a really fucking bad way. They were lucky in a way because we had no phone signal. So all things being equal, we would have had to drive to the nearest town, which would take a couple of hours in order to get the phone signal to come back. But there was a goods train, a freight train going past very slowly, because they do in Australia. They go at about 5 miles an hour. And a couple of the engineers off the train jumped off, and they radioed, because they have radio communication all along the train track. They radioed for the emergency services. It still took the emergency services 2 hours to get there. And the driver of the pickup truck just went on, and his ear was kind of not in a good way, but he was just going, "Oh my, I'm so my ear," and he didn't give a fuck about the fact that his girlfriend, who hadn't been wearing a safety belt, and I don't know if she'd been thrown from the vehicle. She was outside the vehicle when we got to her, because we had to sort of turn around and go back. They were quite a way off the road, in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the Australian outback. What are you going to do? And he wasn't done for drink driving. Do you know why? Because it took so long for the emergency services to get there. By the time that police officer had taken the breathalyzer test, it was too long after the incident to count under Australian law. Just got away with it. Just got away with it. Oh, got away with almost killing his girlfriend. I don't know if she survived, to be honest with you. She was in a fucking really bad way. She had blue eyes. Fuck. Honestly, just very typical of the sort of, it's usually men, isn't it? Can we say all men? Not all men, but most. That male idea of they're the fucking kings of the road, and put them behind the wheel of a car, and they're the best at this ever. And having a few drinks gives them more confidence that they can do really well. So no, I've had really fucking terrible experiences with drink driving, other people's drink driving, and I just will not tolerate it. It is something that I'm very, very much against. Joanna, the one thing I've learned in my years of driving is that I now understand why the older you get, the cheaper the insurance is. When young, I was an idiot. Now I drive stupidly safe. Yeah, Joanna, that's why I would like to see more restrictions on young drivers. Like, for the first few years, you can't have loads of people in the car. That's it. I think in Canada, you have to have like an older person in the car who's been driving for at least 10 years for the first few years of you driving. You have to. And I do think that it should be a one strike and you're out thing. I think if you get drunk and get behind the wheel of a car, or you're speeding and you cause an accident and people are injured, people die, that's it. You can never drive again. You're fucked up. You can never drive again. Prison sentences aside. I'm not talking about getting done for once for speeding or once for, one thing, but maybe for drink driving, actually. It pisses me off, these people who are done, like celebrities, rich people, millionaires who are done time and time again for drink driving, and they just get points on the license, and then they argue that they need their car for their career, they need their car for their job, even though they're old enough to fucking afford a chauffeur. Imagine you're a chauffeur. Driverless EV cabs as a solution. No more drink driving, speeding, traffic jams, pollution, noise, etc. They give no ability to non-drivers, including the elderly. Waymo launching in London next year. Yeah, I'm still a bit sus about the driverless EVs, Nick, because I don't see how they can deal with situations where they've got to make a decision. Like, do they swerve to hit one person so they avoid the group of people? Do they make that moral decision there and then? It's difficult. And the thing of they can go wrong. Simple as that. You can put as many safety features as you like into something, but they can go wrong. Set routes, maybe set routes, but yeah, I don't know if it makes it safer for pedestrians, to be honest with you. And that's what I'm all about. I just want all the city centres to be pedestrianised massively. Like, you park outside the city centre and you go in on the train. That's it. That's how you get in and out of a city centre. And the city centre's lovely because there's no fucking cars in it. I remember a famous one with Alec Ferguson where he said, "I needed a shit." Yeah, that was for that was for speeding, wasn't it? Yeah. Sarah, a driving license is not a privilege. It's a social contract, and you breach it by drink or drug driving or dangerous driving. You lose that privilege. Yeah, Sarah, I absolutely agree. Suspending someone's license for fucking 18 months ain't gonna do shit. Ain't gonna do shit. Like, I didn't drive for the best part of, 8 years? 8 years from the beginning of the Odyssey expedition to when I left the island in Panama in 2017. I drove a bit now and again, but it wasn't like every day or nothing. I went for 2 years, I think. No, maybe, maybe a year and a bit where I just didn't drive at all. I'm trying to think of when I drove. I rode a motorbike in Nepal, Royal Enfield. That was so much fun. I drove little scooters around places, little mopeds. Drove a moped around Sarong in West Papua. Also when I was on the island of Tuvalu, well, the atoll, the main atoll of Tuvalu. Tuvalu is actually 9 islands, but yeah, you could just go up to someone and go, "Can I buy you scooter?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, sure." It'd be $10, and you go, "Okay." Give them $10, and you ride around on a scooter for the day on the only road goes around the atoll. Anyway, so yeah. Is there anything positive going on? I'm so tired of fart, Israel, the budget, and the Duke of Nonsberger. Yes, there is. So there was some fantastic news yesterday, and I'm going to read this up to you. Exciting results for blood tests for 50 cancers. So this is being reported on the BBC. I'll take you over there now. This is incredibly exciting. This is the same thing that Elizabeth Holmes of Theranos, or whatever the fuck it was called, was trying to do, but this has actually been done. So a blood test for more than 50 types of cancer could help speed up diagnosis, according to a new study. Results of a trial in North America show that the test was able to identify a wide range of cancers, of which 3/4 currently have no form of screening program. That's fucking huge. That is absolutely huge. And as someone who has friends and relatives who have died from cancer or suffered from cancer, this is massive for me. So there's a good news story. There's a quick good news story. Listen, I'm going to have to go in a minute, and I realise I haven't done the papers, but I'll do them really fast because they're all going to be about Prince fucking Andrew, aren't they? Spy suspect was stopped with suitcase of cash. Not sus at all. And there's Kirsten Scott Thomas there at the gala ball for the British Museum, which is, the British Museum needs lots of money so it can afford to keep all the stuff it stole from other countries. Thousands of perverts to be freed from jail early is the cover of the Express for some reason, talking bollocks as usual. We've got Sunday Telegraph here. And the Lady Annabelle, privately educated, of course. And then we've got Andrew gagged accuser to save Queen. This is apparently Virginia Giuffre was given a gagging order. She signed the gagging order in 2022 because it was the Platinum Jubilee, and they didn't want to distract from the Platty Jubes. We've got the Sydney Sweeney there, who's I don't know, the face of MAGA now for some reason. On the front cover of the Sunday People with it's the end of the line, Andrew. King told Duke to quit in 10-minute call. I think also, we've also got the fact that he's still a prince, which needs to go. Virginia's revenge on Andrew there as well. We've also got Andrew told the Met to dig up dirt on Virginia. This is a mad story. He told the police that protect the royals, right? The ones that they won't allow Harry to have when he's here with his kids. So he won't bring his kids to this country because he won't have protection. And lots of people want to kill him and his children because nutters, bigots and nutters. Yeah, Prince Andrew apparently said to his bodyguards, Met bodyguards, to dig up dirt on Virginia Giuffre, which is just this is back in 2011 when he had never met her and didn't have anything to do with her. And then there's another story on the top of the Daily Mail. This is the Mail. Sorry, the Mail on Sunday. Epstein set Prince up with second sex abuse victim. Oh my God. That might be what was going to come out because we knew it was going to be something big. Something big. So, yeah, if another victim's come forward, he should have his princeship taken off him. And his annoying daughters should have their princessships taken off them as well for being annoying. George only. Thank you very much for the £10 super chat. I recently attended a motorway safety awareness course. What I noticed of the ratio of men to women attendees is probably the biggest danger on our road is testosterone. I absolutely agree. Arrogance and testosterone. Couldn't agree more, mate. Couldn't agree more. drivers who were like, I'm having a great time. I don't give a fuck about anyone else. Same mentality as smokers, I found. Sorry to upset smokers in the chat there, but I'm having a great time. Fuck everyone else. Just saying. Maybe you should stop doing that. He lied to me about Epstein. This is Emily Maitlis talking about Prince Andrew in that interview where he totally lied and said he couldn't sweat, for fuck's sake. And then the last story here quickly is we've got Ukraine can't beat Russia, warns top British army chief. It can't beat them alone. You've missed a word out there, Field Marshal Lord Richards. You've missed out the word alone. But they're not alone, are they? Just like we weren't alone in World War II or World War I. To be honest with you. Okay, right, that's it for me. Sorry to be a bearer of bollocks news. But yeah, just to go back to the Trump thing, the anti-Trump movement. Those anti-Brexit marches that I attended, they were great, but we needed a more sustained vision. Like, we needed to be doing stuff every day. We need to be disrupting stuff every day. We need to be getting into the newspapers every day. That's what we needed to be doing. And to do that, you need money. So what the No Kings group, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, they need to get money together in order to make sure that every fucking day they are doing stuff to niggle Donald Trump. That's what they need to be doing. And going after his comrades, going after, in the same way that Trump is going after his political enemies, they need to go after our political enemies every single day. But, those marches, they mattered, right? They proved they weren't alone. They helped build a community. They gave hope during a period of political despair. And they kept the flame lit for future organising. And that's why protest needs to be there. But it's always step one. It's never the whole plan. It is never the whole plan. Just Stop Oil didn't get what they wanted because of their protest. They got what they wanted because Labour got in, and it was part of their manifesto that they were going to diverse. They weren't going to invest in the oil industry. It's part of their manifesto. It wasn't like the pressure that they put on Labour made them do that. It's obviously actually a good economic decision to take. Protest is emotional oxygen. It keeps people connected. It shows the world resistance. It inspires young people and new activists. It's a statement of unity. But it can't end there. It cannot end there. You've got to start the momentum and you've got to keep it going. It's got to be sustained every day. And it's a lot of work. It's a full-time job. But someone has to fucking do it. And it's not going to be done by people sitting around for free in the evening because they're retired and they're bored and they've got nothing better to do, pontificating about, how bad the world is. I do that. Look at me. I'm doing that. I'm doing this show. I don't think I'm leading a fucking movement. So yeah, protests need to name specific demands, right? Just Stop Oil, quite a good name for a group, I guess, because it said exactly what it says on. It does exactly what it says on the tin, right? What's not a great name is when people go out the protest capitalism. I'm anti-capitalist. Okay, cool. What do you want to do? What do you want to do instead? Like, what are you pro? What's the solution? And this is why, people going, I'm against first past the post, and I'm like, okay, but you want PR, right? Which flavor of PR? There's 19 different flavors of PR. Which one do you want? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how that will empower people. We need to identify targets, Congress members, corporations, courts, judges, people who are facilitating Trump's rise to power and his stranglehold on power, who facilitate his rise to power and are facilitating. So go after the tech bros. Go after them. Fuck them up. There are ways of fucking, if everyone who went on those marches decided to not invest in any, products that came from, I don't know, one of the big tech pros, everyone decided to divest from anything that Elon Musk had anything to do with, it will make a difference. It will make a difference. If 1 million people decide to do it all at once, concerted effort, yeah, do it. People stop buying stuff off Amazon. They'll fucking notice 1 million people they scrap their Amazon account. They will notice. They need to build infrastructure, organize, local organizing hubs that actually fucking organize shit. And they also need like legal defense networks. They need to boycott, strikes, divestment. They need to put economic pressure on the powers that be, and train people in non-violent resistance beyond marches. And if this just becomes another Women's March moment, or even Black Lives Matter, it'll fade. It'll fade. It won't achieve what it was set out to do. But if it looks like it locks into community organizing, mutual aid, legal warfare, labor action, this could be the start of a historic pushback against the powers that be. So there you go. Don't wait for politicians to save you, because they won't. Especially fucking cowards who are terrified of the polls or upsetting the fucking oil oligarch sugar daddies. And don't outsource your freedom to institutions that are failing, And I mean, turn your hope into work, not optimism. It's all good. It's all good having hope, but unless you can turn it into something that actually strategically changes things. And I don't have all the answers, and I couldn't organize one of these groups myself. I don't have it in me. I'm not an organizer like that. I'm a bit too scatty. Maybe next month when I get my ADHD medication, who knows? But at the moment, no, I'm far too scatty to be able to sort something else like this. But there are people there who are just fucking capable. Give me some capable people. Pay them to do the job of fucking the Republican Party and Trump. Okay, pay people to do the job in this country of fucking over Farage and his fuckers. And protest matters, but power only responds to pressure. Okay, keep that pressure up. Escalate, organize, get serious in your frivolity. So there you go. That's all I want to say about that. I've seriously got into this. Lol, flying an A350 today. A350 today. That's pretty cool. Dancing in a disco, bumper to bumper. Wait a minute. Where's me jumper? I like a manifesto. Put it to the test, though. Reiterating the sage words of the Sultans of Ping FC. And you could, Graham. You're better than you think. Says Noob. I know my limitations. I can't sing for shit. I went to see a gig last night, and oh my god, the singer had just the most amazing fucking voice. It was just like a little gig in a deli. It was in the deli on Claypath in Durham. There's only about 30 people there. It's fucking boss. Anyway, big gigs, little gigs, put them in a box. So listen, thanks very much for watching. Thanks for the super chats. That made it worth getting out of bed this Sunday morning. Morning Brew should really be at 9 o'clock each day, so I might change the name of this show so it's called something else, like the Sunday Sermon or something. Sunday Sermon, does that sound good? You have a picture of me with a dog collar on. Oh, there's literally a dog collar. But yeah, thanks for joining us this morning and now this evening, this afternoon. And I'll be back tomorrow morning, bright and breezy, bright and early at the ungodly hour of 9 a.m. Monday morning with another Morning Brew. So thank you so much for watching. Thanks for supporting this channel. Thanks for the super chats, obviously. Thanks for all the comments. Give us a like on the way out. Give us a like. If you're not already subscribed, go on, subscribe. Go on. You know you want to. Just press the subscribe button and hit the bell notification, and you'll know when we're going live with something. And if you are so minded and you're not a member already, become a member. Then you get access to the Discord server that goes on after the show, and go and have a chat over there with our fellow socialites. Okay, that's it. Until next time, thank you so much for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.